Okay, let's analyse this a little bit further. What I want to do is probably end up with a factorisation of the equation that I've got, which is probably what you have to do in the maths paper as well. So you'll be given, let's say, this graph, 2x is the old graph that we've used, 2x squared plus 3x minus 2, and we know that gives us two roots, one at minus 2 and one at 0.5, and we used our quadratic program to actually do that. So if I run my program just to show, if we entered in the equation the 2, 3 and minus 2, we end up with 0.5 and minus 2, which agrees with my chart here. But if we factorize this, we can use the roots of the equation to help us factorize it. So I'm going to write them in here. Let's get them back on the screen so you can see them. I've got 0.5 and minus 2. I want you to keep your eyes on those two. So one way of factorizing this equation would be to do 2 and in brackets x plus, well, I think it's x minus, let me just check that one out again. So it's positive here, so I'm going to use a negative version here, x minus 0.5 and then x plus 2. Now that is the same equation factorized, and if I draw this graph I will get exactly the same one as this one. So how can we tell what we've got? So it turns it around about minus 0.7 minus 3.1. Let's run that one. And we've got exactly the same graph, the same two roots, minus 0.7, yeah, minus 3.1. It's exactly the same graph, we've just factorized it. But what I want you to notice in the factorization, that was one of the roots, 0.5, and that was another one, minus 2, but the signs are changed over. And the value of a that we used, which was 2, is in the front of them. So can we use what we've got in our program to actually factorize the quadratic we started off with? And does it always work? So let's try another one, just at random. Let's try a 3x squared. Let's just do plus x, and let's just do minus 3. And what do we get? Right, it's just around about minus 1.2, minus 1.18, and at just over 0.8, 0.84. So let's stick that into our shell. It would be nicer if we got, I'm going to do that one again. Let's do the x squared, because I want whole numbers to go into the formula rather than decimal numbers, because I'll have to write in a lot of decimal numbers from the answer. So x squared plus x minus 1. Whoops. And I think that gave us an answer of, there we go, again I've got decimals for an answer, which is fine. Let's go for it. So this one is roughly at minus 1.6 and this one is at 0.6. So I'm hoping to get the same answer out if I factorize this equation using the roots. So let's stick it into our shell. Let's get it going. So what do? We did 1x squared plus 1 minus 1, and we got 0.61. Let's round that up to 0.62 and minus 1.62. So let's do this equation here. So that would be 1x, so we don't need anything in front of there. We have x minus 0.62, 0.62, and x plus, because that's a minus, 1.62. And I'm hoping that we get exactly the same graph that we've got here, but from a factorized version. And pretty much. So there is a direct link between the equation that we did. Let me do a bigger one. 3x squared plus x minus 2. Hopefully I'll get whole numbers. There's a direct relationship. There we go, -1. That's very nice. And then 0.7 roughly. A direct relationship between this and the factorization that we get. And I think we can do that through our program. So let's just put this one in. So that was 3x squared plus x and minus 2. 2 roots is 0.67 and minus 1. So I'm going to write up here the value of it in factors. So that's 3, and then I've got my 2 brackets. I've got x in both of them because it's going to be x squared, and all I need to do is work out the 2 numbers that I'm going to put in. So this was a positive 0.67, so it's going to be negative 0.67. This one was -1, so it's going to be +1, x plus 1. And I think that will be the factorization of that quadratic 3x squared plus x minus 2. Should get the same graph. -1, and there we go. So there's a lot to learn from that. Where did the 3 come from? Looking at this equation. Why did I swap the signs over from minus to plus in both of these? And how can I write out a program which will take in a quadratic, give me the roots and factorize it for me? So we'll take a look at the programming for that.